Hi, y'all. Got my little stump grinder here. It's a Barreto SG30. Bought it for do some side work, bring in some extra cash, and to clean up stumps around my own property. But I was hoping to be able to just pay for the machine by the extra work I'm selling, and that's working out pretty good. But I've had an issue since I got the machine. I had a charging issue. Now, here's your regulator for your charging. This goes to your alternator and the inside. Now, when I first checked this, I had like, I don't know, 13 and a half AC volts coming out of the alternator. Well, when I wasn't running the fan back here, this fan on the oil to keep the oil cool when it wasn't hot, and when I didn't have my switch triggered right here for my high flow pump, then I could see my voltage coming up on my battery. But as soon as I pulled them triggers, it'd go back down. So I put all this off until it just got worse, I could say, and I bought the parts. But now, the last time I read it a couple days ago, it's only reading a little over 12. So it's steadily getting worse and worse and worse. So what I'm going to do is change the alternator today. But in order to change the alternator, which is underneath that screen, underneath your flywheel, you got to pull this motor because of this bracket. This bracket mounts on your pumps here, which is for both of your tracks. And it goes all the way down. Let me show you on the other side here. You can see this side better. But it's down here in the bottom. You can see it comes down all the way here. And it's down here on the bottom. And the bracket bolts to the frame, and then the motor bolts to the bracket. Well, you either got to pull the whole bracket with both pumps and everything off and separate it outside, which some people may do, but that's a lot of hoses back here, and I know I can do it better than that, hopefully. Or you can either pull these 4 nuts and pick this straight up. Well, in order to pick it straight up, you still have to take that hydraulic motor off to get that coupling loose, because it's coupled right in there. So what I'll do is you'll have to break it loose here and here. And if you can see, there is a bolt top and bottom. You can see the bottom one there. And then I'll have to take this cover, lay it down, pull these. So I got flex in all my hoses for my radiator. And then I can slide that motor. Well, I'll have to take these 2 here off for my controls. But after I take all that off, then I can just slide that motor straight out, and it will not be in the way for me lifting my gas motor. And when I do that, I'm also going to go ahead and pull this high flow hydraulic motor off here, which it's got 3 hoses and 4 bolts, and it'll come off of its coupling there. And then I can pick my motor straight up, but I'll have to disconnect my throttle, disconnect my air meter, go back here around the other side. I'll disconnect my battery cable, and I'll just wrap it up with, I got some vinyl tape. It ain't electrical tape, but it ought to work. I'll disconnect my ground wire here. And then I have my wire coming from my harness. I want to end up cutting this wire down in here, and I'll splice it back together with a little plug-in butt joint. And I'll disconnect my fuel. And then I'll attach my chains to it and I can pick it straight up. If my bolts were shorter, I wouldn't even have to worry about taking that loose. I could slide it out, but there's some metal stops right here. So it has to come up in order straight up. It won't slide out because of the length of the bolt and as far as it'll drop down. So well, that may drop down far enough. I may be able to pick it straight up or slide it out. But I'm gonna drop these bolts, take all this and take everything else loose first. And then if I think I can get it out, I'm gonna try and work it out. If not, I'll take all this loose back here. Okay, now seeing as I can't get my wrench to the bottom of that one or this one, I'm gonna have to pull this bracket here and all, but I can still take my pump loose here, down below. I know I can pull it straight back enough because I've had it far enough to change out that coupling and hub. So I know I can pull it back without having, let me get back here. So I know I can pull it back enough because I've had that hub in here off and that coupling off. So I'm still going to unbolt this bracket, and then I will unbolt it. The top, there's one bolt up here and then one in the bottom, and I can pull it straight back. And then I can unbolt these four here, finish taking this motor off, and then I can take the bracket and all off out, and then I'll just have to pull the motor off the bracket once I get it over to my little shed there. New approach, learn something new. Alright, y'all seen how that dropped down. Only thing is I'm hitting this right here, but I think as I shove it over and slide it forward, yeah, it'll fit. I'm gonna take the tractor, put the forks on my tractor over there, and I'll put a chain through here, and we'll see what we can do about getting her up and getting her over to the shed to do something with. All right, I got it in here on the workbench. Like I said, I got to get in here to change that alternator. I got a new alternator, a new regulator, and a new coupling. Now I changed out the rubber on it after I first got it because somebody had the hydraulics on it kind of offset, and they wouldn't have lined up, and it had tore up the rubber coupling. So I'm gonna go ahead and put in, and it had wore the hubs, and my other hub, I'm gonna pull off the motor. You can see it split all the way through. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on the new hubs and new coupling to have it all ready. I took it off this mount out there. That's easier to do while it's hanging than it is down here. But this piece here, I want to let y'all know, this moves up and down and sideways a little bit. And this is how you align your actual hydraulic pump up to your motor so it won't tear up that rubber boot. What they did before, somebody had loosened this up and let it all the way down, and it did not align up right, and it ended up tearing up the rubber boot. And I just pulled the hydraulic motor back and changed out the rubber boot and lined it back up. So, but since then I've had quite a few hours on it, and it seems to be holding up. I'm just going to change it all out while I got it off, put all new parts, and it'll last longer. All right, so let me get started. I'm going to take this off, and this off, and then I'll take the coupling and work my way down to the flywheel. Alright, now y'all see how far I had to go to get this off. You gotta even take the starter off over here on the side to get to that one bolt and that clip. Uh, if you're doing this and not video, and take you a bunch of pictures so you know how it goes. But this here has gotten hot and burnt, and it's even broke loose. There's part of the problem there. I mean, it broke up. So you can tell that one there has really gotten hot because it's melted. So when they get hot and they melt and they don't make good connection and yada yada yada, so on and so forth. So, and there's the new one. But I'm gonna clean everything up, and then we'll walk through putting it back together. I may end up taking this up to the pressure washer and just wash this whole thing down real good and wash this out. Clean up the outside, all the rust off of it. I get it cleaned up and we'll start putting it back together. All right, I got it cleaned up and I got the new alternator on. Now this old one, you can see it was crossing right in here. And as it was crossing in there, it got wore on by your flywheel. So what it looks like, of course, somebody put these aftermarket ones on it because they probably put an aftermarket this or checking the connections or something. But when they did, they probably pulled it out some. And it got rubbed on that flywheel, arced out, grounded out, and there you go. So that is just falling apart. So what I did with this new one, I routed it down, up around, and I put my little screw and clip in, and then I brought it up to my new regulator. So that way it's out of the way of the flywheel, and also it has that protector down there for any of these parts that be vibrating to protect the wires. That should do it. So now I'm going to go ahead and continue assembling it just like I took it apart. Okay, yesterday I got my flywheel back on, the nut under it's tight, and I got my stub shaft with my new hub on here. I didn't get it on video, but it's to press that new hub on. I just stuck the stub shaft in the hub and a bench vise, tightened the bench vise, and it shoved it on. That hub is aluminum, so as long as you get everything cleaned up, it fits good and tight. Now, the one thing I didn't get done last night is get these magnetos set. I had to figure out what type of clearance I needed. I'm not a small engine mechanic by no means. I can work on things, but I've learned over the years to pull up information directly from the manufacturer if you can. So I pulled this up this morning, and mine is this model 54, and it shows right down here that it's supposed to be 6 to 8 on the armature air gap, which I've got 6 to 7 is what I'm setting mine at. Or it's supposed to be 5 to 8, and I'm setting mine between 6 and 7. Once you set them once, come back and double check them, because when you move this side may change a little bit and vice versa. So until you get them both sides set just right, and I always I like to check it on the magnet itself, not the flywheel. That way you know, because that's where you're getting your power source from. and then you know you got it just right. When you put these magnetos on, be sure to check your wires, these ground wires back here, going to them, and make sure they're not damaged in any way and hooked up good, because that can also cause you to not have fire, and the last thing you want to do is get it all back together and then you ain't got fire in one of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue building this out and put my starter back on, and we'll be back in touch. All right, now while I got this in easy view, I'm gonna go ahead and put this new one on here. Just got one. Well, let me show you here. It has two tightening screws, set screws, tightening screws, whatever you want to call them, and they're in opposing directions with two different wrenches. As you can tell here, when I went to pull this one off before, when it was in the field, it ended up cracking and breaking. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap out the thing and put a new one. I couldn't get one soon enough whenever that coupling went out on me. So I ended up just putting on the new rubber with this old hub, and been running it like that for the last, I don't know, probably 60 hours. So, but now that I got it off, I'm going to swap it out and get the new one on. Alright, now I got her all back together. Everything's working good, surprisingly enough. That usually don't happen to me on the first try. But just to let you know, when I check it here now with the new alternator, I'm getting about 30 volts AC, and then when I plug it up and hook it up to the battery, I'm getting about just over 14 volts to the battery. So it's charging right and regulating right. So this is the cut wire I did. I just put a little plug-in splice. Also, while I had it down and had the ends exposed, I went ahead and gapped out the lifters in here and got them set right. Them supposed to be around 5 thousandths, so I got them set right. And I pulled out my screen down there, my suction screen, and checked it, and it looked good. So everything's looking good and working good. We're ready to go grind some stumps again.